Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? This is Virginia Milner, and I'm back with another tutorial for summer. It's 88 degrees in the shade. So I thought I would do something that was very light and kind of airy, sparkly, swirly. Anybody who knows me knows how much I love to do spirals. So I thought we would do what I'm calling the Sassy Swirl Summer Bracelet. So it consists wholly of 20 gauge wire and, in this case, crystals, but you can use whatever beads you want. For this particular one, I used small 4mm crystals in the clear color. I get up there so you can see. In the clear, small 4mm clear crystal rondelles and 6mm red rondelles. Now, what I'm going to show you today is 4mm rondelles. I'm going to use just these little 4mm rondelles so that you can see a slightly different take on the same bracelet. You can use 4mm, 6mm, 8mm. You can use all the same size, or you can use two different sizes like I did on this one, and they'll look a little bit different, not much, but just as beautiful. It comes out so nice and so gorgeous, as you can see. I just love it, very light and airy, and it is so easy to make. You put the components together, link all of the what we're making is head pins, link all of the swirled head pins together, and you have a bracelet. I don't know what could be easier than that. So I'm going to get us started because I had so much fun doing this, and I can't wait to do another one on camera, so I have two. So here's what we need. We need round nose pliers, flat or square nose pliers. You really aren't going to need these much, but you might need them a little bit. I always like to have them on hand just in case. And cutters. Also need 20 gauge wire. So what we're going to do is start to make the, let me take this off of here so you can get a better idea. So what we're going to need to start, there it is, yay. So what we're going to need to start is to make our head pins. And that's, in this case, it's just a pin with a swirl design on the end, and a loop on one end and a loop on the other end. And that is very easy to do. What I've cut here is about 2 inches of wire. Now, you need to determine, based on the size of your beads, how much wire you need. So we'll start with what you need for the end. We need to make a loop at the end of one end of your wire and a spiral at the other end. In order to make your loop, you need about 1 inch, half an inch of wire. So we'll start there. So we need half an inch of wire for that. The spiral, it depends. You can use about 1 inch for your spiral, depending on how big you want your spiral to be. These required about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch of wire. So right now we're at 1.5 inches of wire, and then you have to determine how much you need in between for your beads. And I'm just going to give you a basic, when I get into too much mathematical stuff, people's eyes start to glaze over. So I'm going to start the construction of this so that you can see what I mean by your measurements. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a spiral on one end. Let me get my glasses so I can see. And the way we do that is to take our wire and grab our pliers and grab round nose pliers, grab the tip of our wire, make sure that the wire is nicely ensconced in between the tines of, or the teeth of the pliers and not sticking out the other side. And now I'm going to make a bend. And I'm being very vocal in my description because as soon as I start doing this, my fingers are in the way and it's really hard to see what I'm doing. So I'm trying to describe everything as I go. So here's my wire. And I'm going to start by making a bend in my wire. So I'm starting a loop. And I'm going to rotate back. I'm going to make another little bend in my wire. And now you'll see I have about a half of a loop. Just going to continue that until I have a full loop. And so there I have a loop. I want to keep going and wrap that wire around itself like so. And you can see I'm wrapping on top of the other wrap. And now you can see I'm starting a nice spiral shape. So now what I'm going to do is take my pliers, and that's why I said you can use your flat nose pliers, but you don't have to. I'm going to show you both ways. You can use the round nose pliers to continue your spiral. I know some people say it's hard to do that, but that's because they may be using the tip. If you try to use the tip of your pliers, you don't get a good grip. But if you go all the way back to the back of your pliers, like this, you have the strongest grip that you can with your pliers. And then you can just continue wrapping your wire around itself to create your spiral. So I'm wrapping it. Just wrapping. You should be able to see my spiral getting a little bit bigger as I go. Now, I should be down to about 3/4 to about, I think I have about an inch here. Let's just see what I've got. Yes. The end of my wire is about 7/8 of an inch. I don't know if you can actually see that measurement on the screen because this is clear, but let's see if I put it down, if you can tell. Okay, I have about 7/8 of an inch. Now, you can use 7/8 to an inch of wire depending on your beads. And the reason I'm using 7/8 of an inch is because my beads are only going to take up about 1/2 an inch. And then I'm going to have a little piece of wire in between the beads that's going to take up another 1/8 of an inch. So if they're going to take up 5/8 of an inch of wire, I've got a little, let's see, by the time I bend that up, that's going to leave me, I've got a little over 7/8 of an inch. So let's try that out. The next thing I'm going to do is bend my wire so that this is not resting on the side. I want it to be right on top of my straight edge, like so. Now let's remeasure. So now once I put the bend in, I have almost 1 inch of space to put my beads on. And my beads are going to take up 1/2 an inch, quarter of an inch, excuse me. My beads are going to take up a quarter of an inch, and my wire is going to take up about 1/8 of an inch. So that's 3/8 of an inch of wire, and that leaves me with approximately 5/8 of an inch to make my loop. Now I have to stop here because I've got my spiral. The next thing I need to make is a loop, a double loop that's going to serve as a hook for one side of my hook. It's going to serve as a loop for one side of my hook. So I need to make a small double loop, and for that I need about 1 inch of wire. 1 inch to 3/4, and 3/4 to 1 inch of wire, because we're just going to be making 2 very small loops. So I'm going to give myself 1 inch of wire, and I'm going to make a small loop. There we go on one end. Then I'm going to go to the opposite side and make another loop that's going in the opposite direction. I'm going to hold this one so it's facing up. I'm going to make the other one so it's facing down. So it's sort of like a little figure 8. Okay. Now, for the sake of construction, now I have my head pin, my spiraled head pin. I have my kind of crazy 8 link, and I have my 2 beads that are going to go on my pin. So I start with 1 bead, I put it on my head pin, my spiraled head pin. Oh, black beads, there we go. There's 1 bead. I put my link on the pin, like so, and then I put my other bead on the pin as well. And now it's time for me to make my loop. So I'm going to take my pliers. I like to bend it back, and I'm going to bend it in the same direction so that the loop's going to be going in the same direction as my spiral. And I'm going to make the loop. Now I'm going to take my pliers about 1/3 of the way down, my wire about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. So it's right there, if you can see that. And I'm going to make a loop. Just rotating until I have a full circle. And there's my first link of my chain. Okay, now I'm going to make my next one. Again, grabbing the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers, starting with a tiny, tiny little loop. Oh, if I can grab it. There we go. Okay. And keep rotating until I have a spiral Once I get to this point, I'm going to grab it on the side with my pliers all the way to the back. And start wrapping my wire around itself. Okay, there's my length of wire. Measure it off, make sure I have enough. Straighten my wire so that my spiral's on top of it. So, first bead. And now I'm going to connect it to my last head pin. I'm putting it through the loop that I made on the head pin, not the crazy 8 little loop, double loop that I did, but it goes through the loop on my head pin. Put my second bead on. Make my loop. And there's my second link. Let's do it again. Make my spiral. I showed you how to do it with the round nose pliers. Now I'll show you how to do it with my my square pliers. Now, the only reason that I prefer to just continue to do it with the round nose pliers is that I don't have to change pliers, but it's the same premise. Just grab it and wrap the wire around itself. Same, exact same motion. Let's see, oh, that looks like about enough. Bend back my wire. There we go. First bead on. Attach it to my last head pin, like so. Second bead. Bend my pin back and make my loop. Throw the way down my pliers. I can grip it. There we go. Make my loop. There we go. And let's do it again. So this is what we have so far. Looks like a nice little zigzag. And let's do that again. Let's do a couple more of these. Make my loop. And my spiral. You'll get to a point where you don't have to measure. You can just kind of eyeball it and see if you have enough to accommodate your beads and your loop on the end. But if you're more comfortable measuring, by all means do so. Measure it. Straighten my wire out. There we go. First bead on. Attach it to my last link. Put my second bead on. And close my loop up. Third of the way down my pliers. And rotate. Straighten my loop up so that it rests on top. And there we go. I'm going to do one more. And then I'm not going to bore you by making you sit through me continuing this. And continue it off camera. And then come back like the cooking shows and show you the completed project. Or actually, I'll have to show you how to make your clasp. So here we go. My spiral. The bead on. If I can find the hole in the bead. Oh my goodness. There we go. And attach it to my last head pin. My last bead on there. And make my loop. Yeah, there's the start of my chain for my bracelet. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop the tape. I'm going to continue to work on this. All these beads left, all this wire left to cut up. I'm going to continue, and then once I get it all together to the point that I can make the clasp, I will be back and show you how to do that, how to finish it off. Okay? All right, all finished. All finished. There we have it. There's my bracelet. And now the only thing left to do is to make the clasp. So we already have our little spiral 8 that we put on at the very beginning that we hooked into the first link. Now you get to see what that's going to be used for, because that is going to be the hook of our clasp. So we have that hook. Now we're going to make, that's going to make the loop of our clasp. Now we're going to make the hook for our clasp. So there that is. It's hiding right down in there in between the beads. It's almost invisible. There we go. Yeah, there. Right there in the first, on the first pin. Right there. Boom, boom, boom. So now we're going to make our hook that's going to hook into that nice, neat little loop. So what we are going to do, and this depends, when you make your bracelet, as you're going, one of the best things about this particular type of bracelet is you can keep going until you need to stop. There's no need to measure anything out at the beginning. You just need to know what size your arm is or the person that you're making this for. And then as you go, you can measure. So I can look at this and say, okay, I need another bead, I need another link, or I'm already there, or whatever. But I can go as I'm making them, as I'm making the little, putting the little links together, I can determine along the way how many more links I need. If you're doing it for somebody that, if you're making it for somebody else, just use your ruler. And once you get to, say you need a 7.5 inch bracelet, once you get to 7 inches, stop, because your hook is going to take up some of that space. But also remember that that's going to take up about 3/4 to maybe an inch of space, depending on how big you make your hook. And remember that you need to measure from where this ring is, not the tip, but where the ring is that you're going to hook into. So this is where you start your measurement. If you need 7.5, measure that, and then make your hook accordingly to fill in the rest of the space so that it'll fit. So mine is pretty much flush. I mean, I really don't need much because it's meeting, but I also need to make sure that I can there's a little overage so that I can fasten it. But I don't want it to be so tight that it doesn't have any movement either. So I don't like mine hanging down. I see some people like theirs really big. That bothers me. I like mine somewhere in between tight and not tight. Just a little bit more comfortable for me that way. So I'm gonna get about 1.5 inches of wire, cut that. And here's how you know how much wire to get. I cut a little bit extra, I think. About 1 inch, and wow, how did I end up with 2 inches? Anyway, here's how you can know how much you need. You can measure what you have. And if you have, say, 2 inches, just because it's an even number, and once you make your first hook, because we're going to make an S hook. Do I have one out here? Yeah, we're going to make an S hook. Oh, okay, come back. You can see it better if I hold it like this. So we're going to make an S hook. And the way you can determine how much wire you need to continue to make S hooks down the road is that you, say, take 2 inches of wire, make your first loop of your hook, and then measure to see what you have left. If once you've made that one hook, you have 1 inch of wire left, then you know you need 2 inches. If once you make your loop, you have 2¼ inches of wire left, then that tells you about how much you made. You use 3/4 of an inch of wire for the first half of your loop, and you need to cut off whatever is left beyond 3/4 of an inch. That's the best way to determine how much you need for, how much wire you need for your S hook. You can go with a specific amount, but it just depends on how big you want your S hook to be. So there's no firm, get 2 inches, and that's going to cover all of the bases. It depends on the size of your hook. Okay, so let's get to it. So we're going to make an S hook. We've done this before, but we're going to go over it again. So I start with my ever-present little loop, teeny tiny little loop that goes on the end, and it needs to be small because it needs to be able to hook into my little loop here. So grab my wire with the tip of my pliers, make my loop, tying as small as I can get. There's my loop. Now I can check to make sure that it'll fit in there by not going any further. I can just take this, see if it fits. Oh, it's kind of tight. Tighten it up with my pliers. Squeeze it just a little bit till it's a little smaller. And now let's check. Here's my loop that it's going to go through. And yes, we have a winner. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab my round nose pliers again and make a bigger loop. I'm going to slide my pliers down on my wire. Now notice that the rounded part is on one side and the rest of it is flat on the other side. So I'm going to slide my wire down to the very back of my pliers. I can see that the little loop is hanging down one side. Now the side that the loop is going to be on, you're going to ignore and bring the wire over the top of the pliers on the other side. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing. So there's my little loop hanging down. Make sure it's facing either down or up. So if the loop is facing down, the wire goes over the top. If the loop is facing up, the wire goes under the bottom. So just the opposite of where your loop is. So there's my loop hanging down. So my wire goes over the top and meets the ring on the top. Just kind of a little tap. And I have my shepherd's hook. So that's my first half of my hook. So now I'm going to make the other half of my hook. And in order to do that, I need to make another little tiny loop. So grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers again. Make a loop. Teeny loops, very, 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 very small. Because that's going to have to go through the last ring on my chain. This is the side with the figure 8 loop that I did. And this is the side with the very last eye pin or head pin that I did. So let's just check, make sure it'll go through. Oops, again, very tight. Let's squeeze it a little bit. Get it down to size. Check it out. Make sure it'll fit through. It goes through, but it kind of catches. So I'm going to make it just a little smaller. Squeeze it just a little bit more. And that should do it. Yes. And now I'm going to make my large hook. And for that, I want that to be on the opposite side of this one. So I've got this one facing down. I'm going to put my pliers in so that the small loop is hanging down on the bottom along with the other loop here. And I'm going to bring my pliers, my wire over the top. You can't see that. Let's go this way. We're going to go over until it meets the other side, till it taps the top of that loop. And there's my hook. There we go. A good look at that. Nice. And now I'm going to attach it to one end of my bracelet. and then fasten it on the other side. I like this. I like the S-hook because it doesn't matter whether or not you're right-handed or left-handed. You can fasten it on either the right side first and then the left, or the left side first and then the right when it's on your arm. It's entirely up to you which way you want it to go. Okay, and there we go. Here's our bracelet. I would fasten it on this little mannequin, except that the bracelet is black and the mannequin is black, and I'm not sure it'll show up. So I think I'll put it on my own arm. Why not? It is going to be mine after all. Let's see here. Okay, there's my little hook. I should turn this down so that you can, oh, you can see me, I think. Okay, I'm gonna just fasten it in my hook there, my loop. I need to take my glasses off in order to do this. It's really weird what I need my glasses for and what I don't. So I'm kind of guessing where the loop is. There it is. I think. Let me take these off. Now I can see. Much better. All right. Get my hook turned around here. And oh my goodness. Let's get in there. You're making me look bad. Okay, I'm gonna open it just a little more. I guess that's one of the disadvantages of wanting it a little tighter than normal, than most people do, I mean. Down there? I do believe it is. Yes, okay. Ooh, 5 minutes to put the bracelet on. That is not normal. Okay, so here we go. Here's my bracelet. Can you see that? Ooh, I like it. There's my S-hook clasp in the back there. And it just kind of fits in with the rest of the filigree, which is nice. So that is my tutorial today. I love this bracelet. I think it's so neat. It does take a lot of beads. If you use 4mm beads, you can probably get this out of 1 strand. You'll probably have enough, because I used about, when I did the 4 and 6mm beads both together, I used 30 beads. When I used just the 4mm beads, I used 34 beads. So it just depends on the size. If you use 8mm, they're going to take up more space, so you'll probably need fewer beads. But I know, I'm pretty sure that most of the strands of beads, if it's 4mm, you're going to get about 30 beads in there, depending on what it is. These are crystals, and they're Swarovski. So I get them in bulk. I don't know how much they are in the store and how many you get in the package. But so there's both of my bracelets together. Yay. Oh, and by the way, you can also use this exact same pattern to make a really nice pair of earrings. It's so awesome. I love them. So that's my tutorial for today. I know I've talked your ear off, and this has probably taken way too long, but it doesn't take that long to make. All you need to do is make your head pins. I'd go ahead and make those ahead of time. Just make a bunch of them. Make, say, 20, 25 of them. Put those all together. Check it on your arm to see how many more you need to make, if any. If you have a tiny little worm, you may not need any more. Actually, yeah, because I used, let me get back to my count. I used 30, oh, I said 30, didn't I? I used on the 6 and the 4 millimeter one, I used 30 of each size bead. So that's 60 beads. On the 4 millimeter one, I used 64 altogether. So you're going to need a strand or two, because I did about 30 or 32 of the head pins in order to put the links together. And there's 2 beads on each head pin. So just keep that in mind when you're buying. 2 beads on each head pin. You might need 25 or 30 head pins. So that gives you your number of beads that you're going to need. And when you're finished, if you have beads left over, earrings, do it, because these are awesome. If I didn't have these on, I'd show you, but they are so cute. Really, really cute and easy to make. You can also make a necklace. That would take a ton of beads, but it would be a lot of fun, and it's very, very simple. You saw what the components consisted of. It's one of the easiest things to put together that I've ever done, and I just love it. It's lightweight, it's very pretty, sparkly, swirly, and just perfect for summer. So have fun. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sorry about all the rambling. I am just really missing everybody. So I talk to myself on camera. So leave me some comments. Show me what you've made. Please upload pictures. If you don't have Facebook, I've run into a lot of people who say they don't have Facebook, so they can't upload pictures, and they just send them to my email, and then I can post them for you. So if you send them to the email that's on the comment page, in the description of the video, just send me whatever pictures you have. I will upload them to the Facebook page, and I love to see your creations, so please do that. Give me any comments, any questions, any things you did not understand, please let me know. Next week we're doing Father's Day, so we're going to be doing a really neat pouch. Do I have it here? Yeah, we're gonna go back to the cord. I wanted to do something really, really simple, so I did it's a crystal or stone pouch. That's what we did. Now, I did this a while ago, and I wore it, and man, I got so many compliments. I had one young guy who said, "Wow, that's a great crystal. Where did you get that?" I said, "It's not a crystal." He said, "What is it?" I said, "It's a rock." He couldn't believe it. He said, "Wow, that's a great rock." So this is what we're going to be making for Father's Day. I'm hoping it'll be a hit. I wanted something that was really, really for guys, but also for women. And I proved that's true by wearing it and getting every place I went. I made this way back before everything got closed down and closed up. And I was going around from store to store. Every store I went to, people were asking me where I got it. So it is great. See you next week. Try to stay cool. Have a great weekend, and let me hear from you because I miss you dearly. Enjoy. Bye-bye.